Hi everyone, my name is Catherine and welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about Contiki group tours and how I feel about them, how I like them, and just more about them so that you can get to know more so what they're like and see if they're a tour that you would like going on. What is Contiki? Contiki is a group travel company that is catered towards people who are between the ages of 18 to 35, and they have this slogan called #NoRegrets. They offer tour destinations in Europe, North America, South America, Africa, Asia, honestly a lot of different places and most of the world, I would say. For if you want to go somewhere, there's a good chance that Contiki has a tour there, which is one reason I really like them. And there's a big variety in the length of trips that you can take. Some of them are just a few days, some are up to 45 days. So the tours that I went on with Contiki, I went to a Russia and Scandinavia trip with Contiki back in 2017. That was a really fun trip. I had been to Russia before because my family is Russian, and then I went with my friend who has Scandinavian history in her family history, and she'd wanted to go for a long time, so we thought it'd be kind of a fun way to combine like our family cultures into this trip. So we started out and we went to like Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark. We got to Russia, we went down, and then we turned towards Poland, and then we ended up finishing in Germany. So that was a really fun trip and I quite liked it a lot of fun, made lots of good friends. And the other trips that I went on with Contiki, I ended up doing a working holiday visa in Australia, and so I went on a Contiki trip and I basically went up the coast. I flew into Sydney a few days early because these tours typically, where the city that they meet, you just meet and leave. So if you want to spend time in that initial area or city, you want to get there a little bit earlier. And so that's what I did with Sydney because it's the biggest, most populous city in Australia, and I wanted to be able to see it more, so I met my friend there and she flew in from the US, and then we met up with our Contiki group and we basically just went up the east coast of Australia and we ended off in Cairns. I always have a hard time saying that city name. And then I also ended up, my last big international trip before the pandemic, we did 2 back-to-back Contiki trips, which is nice that a lot of them, and if you want to, you know, if you're taking the time to fly to a certain region of the world, a lot of people like to do back-to-back trips. So instead of being gone for a week, they'll be gone for 2 or something like that. So that's what we did, and we flew to Egypt. So one trip was all about Egypt and we went all around, lots of fun things. We like cruised down the Nile, we saw the pyramids, we rode camels. Afterwards, we started doing a Israel and Jordan trip, and that was really great because we got to see Petra in Jordan, and we got to go to lots of different cities in Israel. So those are the trips that I went on with Contiki, and I think there's a lot of different characteristics with Contiki, and a lot of them, some of them I don't personally like align with, but I still love Contiki, so don't let it completely sway with you. But like looking online, somebody said you should go on a Contiki tour if you like to party, you want everything organized for you, you're a solo traveler wanting to meet people, or your budget is not small. So I think it really depends. A lot of different tour companies, especially ones that aren't catered towards like young travelers, are a lot more expensive. So I would say Contiki isn't cheap, but it's not like the, you know, expensive option. So I don't necessarily think, like, maybe in certain places if you solo travel it'll be cheaper, but again, I think it's kind of a middle ground. So it's totally up to you and what your budget is. And I'm trying to think if I've ever gone on a Contiki trip completely by myself, and I don't think I have. I've gone on these types of trips with other companies by myself, so I know what it's like, but not a Contiki trip. But honestly, if you go with a friend, if you go solo, I think both are nice options. The thing is, with Contiki, normally like 50%, if not even more, of the travelers are there by themselves. So if you want to go somewhere and you don't have somebody who can go with you for whatever reason, Contiki's a really nice option because there's other people by themselves and it's not weird, it's not awkward, and you can make friends. I'm somebody that's really shy and introverted, so it's always like that feeling of like, you know, first day of school at a new school, you don't know anyone, but then it's like everybody for the most part is new, but they've always been great at the end. And I've met some really good friends from my Contiki trips that I've ended up meeting later on. One thing I love is that everything's organized for you. I love traveling, but I get kind of lazy when it comes to like organizing all the logistics. Although a lot of it is organized for you, there's still a lot of open gaps where you can do your own thing. You have your accommodations set for you, you have like the breakfast set for you, you have like that farewell dinner and start dinner set for you. You'll have like the common big touristy things set for you, like Petra, for example, or the pyramids, like things that pretty much everyone's going to want to go to in the location that you're at is already set for you. And then they'll have some activities that they have available that people can do, and then it's nice because you don't have to like worry too much. You can just say, oh yeah, I want to do that, and then add it to your bill or whatever. And then there's other people from the tour doing that with you, but then there's also just complete free time for you to do what you want. So I really love the balance of it, because for me personally, if I was to plan a trip, especially somewhere new that I don't know very well, I would just get personally really overwhelmed. Obviously everyone's different, but I really like that it's organized. And then the whole partying thing, I will say I've compared Contiki to other trips, and I think any of these trips, young people on vacation abroad, especially if some of them aren't old enough to drink in their home country and then can in this country, like people are gonna party, and that's not something I like to do at all. But I wouldn't let that sway you from not going, because I don't drink, like, period, and I just don't go out with people. Sometimes if there's someone's birthday that I'm like made friends with on the trip, or it's the farewell night, like you can join and just don't do what you don't want to do. I know sometimes it might be easier said than done, but I just wouldn't join the activities like at the end of the night. Like the night times are normally open, so like you could go out to dinner if you want, or like see the night market or whatever is like around there, and then just go back to your room and sleep, because a lot of times there are early mornings, and then in the morning you're happy that you're not like, you know, miserable and hungover. So I wouldn't let that sway you too much. And then on this list that I see online, it says you don't really care about meeting new people, don't go. And if you want to spend more time in each place, because you typically just spend a few days in each city and kind of go. If you want to really spend a lot of time in places, then maybe not Contiki. Or if you like true luxury or relaxing, because these trips can be exhausting. Talking about luxury and relaxation, that's not really Contiki style, and it's a lot of go. The accommodations are typically like good, but they're not like luxury or anything like that. So just know what you're getting into. I just really like it because everything's organized for me. I can meet people and it's around my age. The type of people that you would meet on Contiki. There's this running joke, if you haven't heard it, it's good to know. A lot of these trips the majority are Australians. There's so many Australians that go on these Contiki trips, and although Contikis are majority Australians, there's still a decent amount of people from like the US or Europe or whatever maybe, but I would say like half plus are Australians. So the way that Contiki is run is that basically, and it depends on each trip really, but for the most part what you do is you typically go and use a bus that you have the whole time, and it's a Contiki bus. And so you'll fly in country, and then depending on how early you fly or whatever, the day of the starting day or night of the trip, you'll have some kind of it's usually a dinner time, so like a welcome dinner, get to meet everybody, and then you spend the night at that city, and then you have all of your hotels pre-planned and everything. And then in between cities, you normally travel by bus. And yeah, like I said, it's a Contiki bus. You have your Contiki trip manager who works for Contiki, and they become like your best friend and like the person you go to for whatever you need. And they're always so nice and friendly. But then when you get to each city, you will have a local guide that's like certified as a local, all that stuff, to really give you an in-depth overview of that city. So you have that, and then there's also the bus driver who's typically also a part of Contiki, and you get to know them as well. So the team really is the trip manager, the bus driver, and then you'll just have different guides that know the trip manager and bus driver probably fairly well because they work a lot together throughout the trip. There typically are more people on Contiki trips than other trips that I've been on. I've honestly only really been on Contiki and EF Ultimate Break, and depending on the type of person, when I started on EF Ultimate Break, there would be like, say there's, I don't know, 30 seats in the bus and there's only 15 people. Everyone got their own like row because it was like, you know, seats of 2 and then they like go back, and you get to like sprawl out because you spend a lot of time on these buses like going from city to city, and that's when like the partiers, or really everyone, because you're exhausted no matter what, like long days, early nights, all of that stuff, or early mornings, and you want to just nap. And so when you have that extra space to sprawl out, it's so nice. But then I remember my first Contiki trip, that was the Russian Scandinavian one, the bus was full, every seat was taken, and you had like your backpack in your lap, and there just wasn't space to like sprawl out. So that was one downside, and I'm sure not every trip is like that. Like my Egypt trip was smaller than my Russia Scandinavia trip just because I feel like more people are going to Europe. So it really just depends. That's been really my overview on Contiki. I think, oh, another thing I wanted to mention, I didn't really see this on every trip, but with the Contiki trips, which I didn't know until I was on the trip, like the one I went on in Russia and Scandinavia, it actually like started in Scandinavia and then ended like somewhere in the middle of the EU. I don't remember where. And it like was, I'm trying to explain it in the easiest way, but it was built up with like different blocks. So you could do like the Scandinavia portion and that's it, and then you leave, or you could do Scandinavia and Russia and then leave, or just Russia. So like there were like groups of people that would go in and out. And for me, I didn't even know that was a thing, and so I was confused at first. So it's kind of nice to be able to really customize your trip how much you want, but at the same time, as someone who's like an introvert, I'm like, what are these new people like coming in and out all the time? So I felt like half the people already knew each other when I had started the trip, because I didn't start until like honestly right before Russia, because my friend really wanted to like customize and do her own part of the Scandinavia trip for us, because she wanted to see like where her family's from, and they're in like the more rural parts of Sweden. And so we did feel a little bit like outsiders at the beginning because half the people already knew each other, and there tends to be like cliques, I will say, you know, it's kind of just like a school setting all over again. But then a lot of those people for the Russia part, they left, and then new people came, and those new people that came are the people that my friend and I really got to know really well and click with. You're not gonna like be best friends with absolutely everybody on these trips, but you will find people that you click with, and that's what matters. And yeah, so, and I only found that on the Europe trip, so maybe if you go somewhere more uncommon, I guess, like the Middle East, that wasn't the case, and I really clicked with everybody on those trips pretty well. So that has been my overview on Contiki, and I hope you found it somewhat helpful. And let me know if you've ever been on a Contiki trip, if you plan to go on a Contiki trip, all that good stuff. I am trying to see if I could get a code for you guys, because I know those are always great to have. I've used codes in the past to book my own trips, and it's great because it saves you money. So I will see how that goes. I like submitted a form to see if I can get a code. If I do get one, I will put it down in the description box for you below to use, but right now I don't have one as I'm filming this. But yeah, so let me know how you guys feel about Contiki, if you plan to go, all that good stuff. And I hope to see you guys in a future video of mine. Bye!